And then what happened is when I had my first born son, when he was about 3 years old, he told his dad, who was a lawyer and who didn't believe in any of that stuff, about his past life and how he died in a sword battle in the desert.
Oh my God.
So my husband comes into the kitchen and tells me, I don't understand this stuff. And I'm like, oh, so excited. My son remembered his...
Intuitive Leadership Mastery, the podcast for entrepreneurs and leaders like you who want to double profits and half stress by improving your business intuition. Learn how with your host, Michaela Light.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm here with Ange de Lumiere, and we're going to be talking about how you can tune in to your intuition without leaving your logical mind at the door. And if you don't know Ange, she's based in the United Kingdom, originally born in France, and she is an author and also has created some Oracle decks. We'll talk about that. And she used to be an attorney. So real turnaround there to go to being a business intuition coach. Ange, congrats on that. We'll maybe talk a bit about that as well. And she has her own podcast, the Business Intuition Podcast, and I'll put all the links to that in the show notes, the episode, intuitiveleadershipmastery.com. Anyway, welcome, Ange.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so great to talk with you. So I'm kind of curious because when I think of lawyers and attorneys, they're not, I guess they could be intuitive, but that's not the impression they necessarily give. They're always very logical and organized.
Yep.
So
and I was a math head as well, like you in school. That was my forte. And yeah, I know. And I fell into law maybe a little bit by chance because all the kind of options that I wanted to pursue. I wanted to be an astronomer and lots of different things.
An astronomer?
That was my thing. That was my jam back then.
Wow.
But then I realized it was 10 years studies and maybe not that many prospects of jobs. And so I did the responsible thing. And so I went to see, like one of those career counselors who made me do tons of tests. And she said, you'd be a great lawyer. And I was like, okay, let's give it a try. And it so happened that it was a double degree, translation and law. And I was quite good at languages. So I took an exam in languages to make sure my level was enough in English and Spanish, and I got in. So that's how I became an international lawyer.
Wow. I'm an international lawyer, not just a regular lawyer.
No. I did mergers and acquisition. I don't know if you know what that is. It's like the top buying, selling companies, traveling the world. I've been to all the continents except Australia, which is kind of funny because that's the only place I wanted to go. But and even negotiated in Spanish, Colombia, Peru, Chile. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Wow. Yeah. And, I'm sure you had to use your intuition to get the...
I used my intuition a lot. I just didn't know I was. Because I never considered myself intuitive. So what would happen is, listening to your podcast has really helped me to grasp some of these aspects that I've been using for years. So my boss would always put me on files that have never been done before. And they'd say, like, I worked in the telecom industry. And at the time, it was the Ministry of Telecom. And they were just starting on the contracts with private clients, and they were just starting on networks for companies. And they had nothing. They had just, one of those terms and conditions. And they said, well, you need to create a contract because these are companies. So I started doing that. I also worked on, this is going to be fun. I worked on, submarine cable maintenance contracts with, worldwide. and satellites, transmissions, all sorts of things. And then there was another phase of what I worked on, which was more like privatizations of telecom operators all around the world. So that's where I went to Thailand. I went to many countries of South America.
Well, this sounds like the ideal career. Why'd you give it up?
It was fun. Well, there's the thing is, right, let me explain. So first I was trying to explain to you why I was already using my intuition, even though I didn't know I was. Mm-hmm. So I would see the solution right away, and then I'd just put it together. And then I did my research, and it fit what I had seen. And I thought everybody did that.
Oh.
So I never really mentioned it to anyone. So that's how my intuition worked. I literally, I could write a contract. Like I remember we went to Washington to negotiate the first mobile network technology to bring it back to spread it in Paris. And the same thing, I just literally drafted the contract. I'd never drafted, I had a sort of a model, but I could write anything because I actually channeled it. So but I didn't know I was. So that was fun.
For listeners who don't know what channeling is, what do you mean by channeling?
It means that I wasn't thinking about what I was writing most of the time. It would just come out.
So it's like it came from your intuitive self or your higher self or some other guidance.
Yeah, it came easily. And you know, for a lawyer to write a contract is not usually easy. And that's how I distinguished. Because they overthink things. And it's a very detailed thing, and you have to be very precise. And they worry. Lawyers worry a lot about what could go wrong. About what? They're
kind of calm and confident. Is that just a front?
I think it's the front, and also they're hired for their capacity to worry and see problems.
What an awful thing to be hired for! So you have to worry all the time.
I don't know. That's just how I see it.
Yes, I make sense to me, but I mean, I don't want to spend my whole day worrying.
No, me neither.
I mean, a little bit.
I didn't really fit in much because I was really that positive person, and that let's find a solution for you. So actually, when I worked in-house, engineers and commercial people loved me because I never said no. I said, yeah, well, let's find a way to make this work. But I know that I was the odd one in. Yeah, because generally when lawyers come into deals, they try and kill the deal. They don't try and kill it, but they worry about things and they bring up all these concerns. Yeah.
And the contract now, instead of being 3 pages, is 300 pages.
Yeah.
It's very hard to make it successful from a business point of view. So what a loss to the legal profession when you left that career.
Oh, it's a very kind comment, and it's actually what my most of the people in my team said when I left. They said, "You're crazy. You're just crazy." But I didn't really leave. The universe kicked me out of my job.
Oh, so, how do you mean that? What, when you say the universe kicked you out, what do you mean?
Well, at the peak of my career, we launched this international mobile operator on the stock exchange. And my boss, who was half Scottish, half French, was offered the position of head of legal in this new entity because I knew it back to front, because I'd done I did the data room, the due diligence, put all the contracts together, did all the transfers to prepare. I mean, we were a team, but I was like his right hand. So he asked me to move to London with him, not in the same apartment, but to be part of his team. And I just wanted to go to London, so I jumped on the occasion. But then a couple of years after I moved to London in this new team, I was a knowledge manager by then, which I love to do as well. I love, knowledge and making people work together and training and all that sort of thing. They decided to restructure the company and bring everything back to Paris. And by then I was pregnant with my third child from an English man, and I didn't want to go back to Paris. So I fought them a bit because they didn't want to fire me properly with a package, and that's how it happened.
It's dangerous to try and fire an attorney without giving them a severance package. I just thought that was the worst thing.
Well,
that's sort of like trying to push the lion out of the cage, without giving them a piece of beef.
Yeah, well, I'm not I'm not that sort of lawyer, but I did fight for my rights, and I got what And so I was left with this package, a bit of savings, and no idea what I was going to do, because I didn't really want to go back to law. I didn't want to be a solicitor. And I wasn't in London anymore. That's the thing. If I was in London, I probably would have found another job in law. But because I wasn't qualified as an English lawyer, I had to reinvent myself. And I sort of gave myself permission to do all the things I've never given myself permission before. So I wanted to be an artist. So I dived into mosaics, and I became, I did lots of exhibitions, took part in my local art trail. I trained, first I wanted to train in counseling, because that had been something that I was interested in. But I realized I had to do 3 years. And then again, the prospects of earning money weren't that very good. Sorry, that's not very good English. I had 2 children already. So, I had another one on the way. I was a single mom of 2 with another one on the way. So I decided in the end, I did listening skills, which was brilliant, and which actually helps me a lot with intuition, because you need to learn to listen to be able to access your intuition. And I thought I was a good listener, but honestly, I wasn't. When I did the listening skills course, which was a year long, I realized what a bad listener I was.
Wow. So how does listening well help access your intuition?
Well, because listening skills is about switching your mind off and being completely in the present moment.
Oh.
And being able to listen to a person without having, that chatter in the mind. What am I going to say? When am I going to have a chance to chip in and say my bit? Which is what most people do in a conversation. It's really 2 dialogues that are trying to pile up on each other. Whereas real listening is, I hear you, and then you hear me. It's completely different.
Wow. Yes, maybe they should teach that in schools.
They should definitely teach it in school, and they also should teach it to parents. That's my core belief. Yeah. And
bosses.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I home educate my youngest too. And that's the kind of things I teach them.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
They're in the best school, I'm sure.
Well, I hope so. See? Best for them, hopefully. Yeah.
I'm sure it is the best for them. I think homeschooling, generally speaking, is a lot better than going to a state school, as we say in England, or a public school, as we say in the US.
Yeah.
Because I think, schools are very regimented.
And
cutter graduates.
And I happen to have 4 autistic kids, so it's very hard for them to fit in. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, makes it even more helpful. But, I think nearly every kid can do better with homeschooling than they can in a regular school. So,
and I think that's also why I'm so glad to be in business, to show that it's possible to homeschool and have a thriving business at the same time, to open up the possibilities for parents who want to homeschool without to have to sacrifice their finances, because it's a real reality for parents. Yeah.
What's the secret to having a thriving business while you homeschool? Because homeschooling is almost a full-time job in itself.
Yeah, I know that. Well, I have one day dedicated to my business where my husband looks after the 2 children, and the rest of the time I homeschool part-time and he homeschools part-time. So we do it jointly. So he's got his classic car business, and I have my business intuition business.
Wow, how wonderful.
Yeah.
I've said this before on the podcast. I think traditional schools kind of stamp out the use of intuition in children.
Absolutely. And you know what? I saw that with my elder 2, because they were traditionally schooled. And when they were little, they were both so intuitive. They taught me everything I needed to know about intuition. And it was literally hammered out of them through schooling. And now they don't want to hear anything about it. It's like, oh, it's Mum's thing. She's weird. We love her, but
she's
that's motivated me even more because I'm on a mission, Michaela. I'm on a mission to put intuition on the school curriculum from primary school all the way to university.
Wow.
Starting with business schools. That's my mission. I feel really, really passionate because it broke my heart to see my children, who were both gifted intellectually and intuitively, ended up only using half of their gifts.
Right.
Because that's the only gifts that school honed, basically.
Yes, the logical mind. Obey the rules.
Yeah.
Use your logical mind, but don't use your intuition and don't use your creativity too much, if at all. Certainly not in class.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I mean, and when you add it to teaching intuition to adults, really a lot of it is unlearning all the
absolutely
covering up the intuition. Yeah. So, whereas, as you say, I think everyone is born with access to their intuition and creativity and playfulness, and and then the schools, unfortunately, and society kind of cover it up or rub it out, or make it not the right thing.
We bury it because we don't want to be weird.
Yes, heaven forbid.
And bullied and all that. Yeah.
Yes. The word weird in English, I believe, literally means kind of having extra, superpowers, supernatural.
Nice.
So, yeah, weird's a good thing. I think weird is the new normal.
I always say when people call me weird, I'm weird and wonderful.
There you go. I love that.
Yeah. For me, they go together.
Yeah. So you went into the void of not knowing what you were going to do, gave yourself permission to play and try new things.
Yeah.
So that's great.
So I trained in clinical hypnotherapy.
Oh my goodness.
And that was fascinating because thanks to clinical hypnotherapy, I understood how the mind worked.
Oh.
And the first benefit that I never expected to happen was that it cleared me of a writer's block that I had for 10 years.
Oh my goodness.
Like in an instant after training. And so I started writing again, but instead of writing in French, I wrote in English.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so challenging, writing in a foreign language.
I find it almost easier to start with because in French, I have this sort of censorship in my mind, whereas in English...
Oh. So your internal mental censor only speaks French?
Mostly, yeah. She's quite mean as well, so I just ignore her.
Really?
Yeah, she's
not
mean.
Listening to this.
She knows. She knows. So... I was writing this book about spirituality because I was fascinated by it. My biggest fascination, even when I was a lawyer back in France, was about reincarnation.
Oh.
It's something that I just, I remember when I was 15 years old, and I was raised a Catholic, okay? My dad was super, he was not a bigot. He was a very genuine Catholic and very practicing Catholic. And when I was 15 years old, we used to fight a lot with my sister, my elder sister. And I remember clearly saying to her one day, look, we've chosen each other, right? Let's get on with it. And she just looked at me and was like, where did that come from? Because it's not a concept from, Christian tradition. So that's probably the first hint that maybe there was another life. Maybe I'd chosen my path. I'd chosen my parents, my sister. And when Amazon was created, Amazon.com, this became my personal library, bookshop, whatever you want to call it, where I ordered all these books like Michael Newton, I think is it Destiny of Souls and all those books. And I was just completely into that.
Well, it is fascinating to realize we've had past lives and we have future lives. And sometimes we have parallel lives as well. And they're important because they can all affect our current life and create blocks or resistance or successes. Often we think of past lives as causing problems, but, often the skills we have, if you're good as an attorney, maybe you had a past life.
Absolutely. Or as a linguist. I've never understood why I speak languages so well.
Yes.
Maybe I've been English in a past life, and that's why I speak English so easily.
Yes, it's entirely possible. So it's a fascinating thing to look at, and it's a great way to heal stuff in your business or, in your life or relationships. What was the name of that book again? Destiny something or another?
Destiny of Souls by Michael Newton. He's got two books. They're really famous. I'm trying to look at my library, and they're really... He was basically a psychiatrist, and his patients sort of regressed into past lives spontaneously when he was working on them or whatever it was. And they described to him what happened between lives and how souls are triaged, so to speak, in the spirit world, and how... Triaged?
Triaged.
Like, oh, here's the new soul. Where do they go in heaven? And all that sort of stuff. It's really, really interesting. I mean, I read it 30 years ago, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what was in it, but that was what fascinated me back then. And then what happened is when I had my first born son, when he was about 3 years old, he told his dad, who was a lawyer and who didn't believe in any of that stuff, about his past life and how he died in a sword battle in the desert.
Oh my God.
So my husband comes into the kitchen and tells me, I don't understand this stuff. And I'm like, so excited. My son remembered his past life. And what was the most fascinating aspect of this is that I know all my children chose their names. I didn't. They communicated their names to me when I was pregnant. And my firstborn son's name, and I'm not going to say the real name because I want to protect his privacy, but it actually meant army man.
You're listening to the Intuitive Leadership Mastery Podcast. Get detailed show notes on today's episode together with your free What Would It Take Business Intuition Guide at intuitiveleadershipmastery.com. And now, back to today's show.
His entire childhood he was obsessed with swords, like to the point where it was just surreal. So it sort of confirmed to me that he was telling the truth.
Well, I've read accounts of past lives, young, and often young children do remember this stuff, and then they're told it's make believe and they should not talk about it, and then they forget it. But there have been researchers that have interviewed people, someone who was a fighter pilot in World War II, and they then researched what the little 3 or 4 year old child had said about exactly, they had all the details, they knew the colors of all the instruments and everything, and they found the person they were before, and it all checked out. And there was no way this child had researched this themselves.
No, for sure.
So, and the same, I've read a lot of American Civil War reincarnations, because a lot of people in the United States get reincarnated from people who are in those battles. And, again, the details, check out. So it's quite amazing.
So it sort of was like this one little steps, how you go, there's almost like steps that lead you through the next step. And then my second child also talked about his past life to me. Actually, it was to me first, and then in school. And the primary school teacher called me in because she was a little bit surprised. And basically what it was... No, but the thing is...
Miss, I had a past life.
I'll tell you exactly what happened. It was just so good. So he was sat in assembly, and they were doing show and tell or whatever, and then they had the drill for the fire alarm. And so the teacher said, we need to move in. And then when they came back into the schoolroom, my son said, you know what, I died in a fire. Oh, I was in the fire. He didn't say died. I was in the fire. So the teacher said, well, you look good. You've recovered well. You're really good. I'm happy that, you're okay. And he looked at her exasperated, and he said, when I was a mum.
Oh.
And so she dialed at the end of the day. She called me in to say, your son told me something a bit strange. Would you care to talk about it? But we ended up having this wonderful conversation because she had a nephew and she was towards the end of her career. So she had seen lots of kids, but apparently she'd never come across one it was so clear. But then she told me about this nephew of her that had said grandpa's dead in a family gathering, and they received the call to say that he was dead 5 minutes after the kid had said it. And so she was sort of open to the idea. So we ended up having an interesting conversation about this. But I knew from the detail that my son described how he died in the fire, he was only 3 or 4 years old, or maybe, something like that, maybe 5. It was impossible. First, I don't watch horrible, documentaries about people who are in fires and who end up in the hospital with, skin, what do you say that when you have to grafts? Is it skin grafts? Stuff like that? But he was so precise about what happened and how, and I'm not even going to tell you because it kind of broke my heart. It was awful to hear. But that was when it nailed it for me. Like there was no turning back. The past lives became real for me. And I had this desire to find out about my past lives. And that's why I trained as a clinical hypnotherapist. But what's really funny is the moment I trained as a clinical hypnotherapist, I realized that I didn't want to regress people into their past lives. It didn't feel right to me. My intuition told me it wasn't right. Nevertheless, it had all these, benefits of me learning about the mind, learning the difference between the creative mind and the reptile brain, all that sort of thing. So that was really, really good for me.
It is amazing. And for anyone listening who hasn't investigated this, you can work with someone who will help you do a regression to find your past lives. Or you can I sometimes work with an energy healer and she just works on healing. If I have an issue in my business, maybe I have some, resistance around money or whatever the thing is, or hiring, then she will clear that not only in my current life, but also in past lives. And then the issue just goes away. It's like, amazing.
Yeah. And I suppose it's really good we're talking about this because my main modality is business Akashic records.
Ooh, now that's going to be a phrase not everyone's heard of. What is an Akashic record for those who don't know?
So the other word for it is called the Book of Life. And it's mentioned in most spiritual traditions and religions as the container for a soul's journey through lifetimes. So it's the sum of everything that's happened to you, you, your past lives, your current lives, your future lives. Everything is in that Akashic record. But I specialize in business ones because I have been shown that businesses have souls. And so I can read the blueprint of a business and how it connects to their owner.
Wow. So it's sort of like all their subconscious and past lives, everything, all recorded, in this spiritual Akashic record. But it's almost
just pure energy.
Yeah. And it's sort of like they had a video camera running through all their lifetimes and you've got access to see what went on. And then can you tweak around with that to heal things? Or
absolutely. In the records, you can do healings on past lives, current lives, future lives. I never really know what happens in the records when I get in there, but we do what we have to do.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
But what I love about it is it shows me the highest potential for someone's business.
Oh, well, that's something a lot of people who are entrepreneurs could do with getting to, and often are frustrated because their business won't grow, or they can never seem to hire the right people, or their clients are a pain in the rear end, or and maybe that is something that could just easily be healed like that if they change those energy patterns.
I did once, not long ago, this year, a session with a yoga teacher who could not stand straight. Her shoulders were always hunched, and it actually impacted her success because she felt there was something wrong with her, and she was keeping herself small because she felt she was a fraud because as a yoga teacher, she didn't have the right posture. And when we went into her records, I'm not going to share the details again for confidentiality reasons, but we cleared all that. And she said, literally, when we were done, her shoulders had completely moved straight and back. And it never went back to what it was.
No, of course not. It's permanent. It's unlike, if you get a massage, they might relax a bit. But if you do healing at a deep spiritual level, it just shifts it completely. They don't need, the shoulders no longer need to be, for whatever reason, her shoulders were hunched, whether it was protecting her heart or dealing with a burden on her back or whatever the thing was, spiritually speaking. She didn't need, and the same thing in business. If you heal someone who has difficulty generating enough income, suddenly they get all these great clients. It's amazing.
I can see the blocks in the records. I can see what's causing something.
Wow. That is amazing. So, and you wrote a book about this, didn't you? Or?
Well, I did write a memoir, which is not published yet, but you can get the first 3 chapters, called The Reluctant Business Akashic Reader. And it tells the story. Yes, that's me. It's how I went from being a lawyer to being a business Akashic reader.
Oh, where can people get these 3 chapters?
They can find. Oh, that's a really good question. I'm not sure that it's not on my website yet.
Oh,
I'm going to have to update that for sure.
Yeah, put it on your website.
Yeah,
by the time
let me take. I'm going to write this down to create the page for the.
While you take a note, I'll mention her website is the intuitionrevolution.co.uk, and we'll say that again at the end, and we'll stick it in the show notes along with all our other social media links.
So I'm definitely going to create that.
Absolutely.
To make sure that our
you've had
listeners...
such a varied and creative life so far. I just wonder what you're going to create in the next 100 years.
I'm not sure, but it's fun. I never know what's coming next.
Can't you read your own Akashic record and see what's coming?
I can. Yes. Oh, I know that my mission, as we mentioned earlier, is to put intuition on the curriculum for sure. So that
maybe
I was shown
get
that.
All those MPs in Parliament retrained to use their intuition.
I am, but you're joking, but I was shown, and I'm going to share this vision, okay? Because in October 2017, I decided to invest thousands of pounds in my intuition with a psychic who specializes in business. And it was scary to invest that much money in my intuition, because that's not really what people tell you should invest when you're in business, okay? And right after I paid for the course, I went and had a shower, and I was shown a limousine coming to take me to the headquarters of a CEO, a really famous CEO. And so I was shown that I was supposed to work with these CEOs and high-end politicians. It's not happened yet. To transform the way they look at things so that they bring more spirituality into what they do. And intuition as well, obviously. So it was fun. I don't know. I had no idea. I was like, what the heck is this? I have no idea. But
does that mean you also can help clients who aren't sure what their mission is for their life?
Absolutely. I've seen that. I also have seen people's niches. You know how difficult it is to niche when you have an online business.
Yes.
There's also the
People
blocks, the mental blocks.
They worry if they pick the right niche, or should they even pick a niche? Maybe they should sell to everyone.
Yeah.
Like a scarcity mindset. So.
And I can see the niche that's going to work for them at that point. Yeah. I've seen.
Incredibly valuable.
Yeah. I've also been shown in the Akashic Records. That's why I call them business Akashic Records, because I've come across Akashic Record readers who were really far out, almost too around the soul, and not enough about what it is to be on Earth and what we're here to do on this planet. Who were all into celestial beings and all that sort of stuff. And I have nothing against that, but we're in business. We wanted something that we can apply. And I've even been shown with one lady that the exact funnel she was supposed to create, the 3 videos and what they should be and how that should pan out. It was fun. Yeah.
He should have paid you millions. You should just say, look, just pay me 10% of what you make on this niche and funnel.
And actually, my next client's probably going to be on a percentage base. Yeah.
Yeah, no money up front.
Why not?
Percentage on the back.
Yeah.
That way, there's no risk for them. Just a crazy idea.
But it ties with our conversation about past lives, because it was already my interest, but I just didn't know that's where I was going to end, if that makes any sense.
Right.
And I didn't know until I did that course. Actually, no, that's not true. I came across a really good book about Akashic Records. And when I read it, I realized I'd been doing that my entire life.
Oh.
It dawned on me because I realized, I remembered an instance when I was 8 years old. And people would come to me for comfort. And I would say things that didn't feel that they matched the age I was.
Right.
I kept on thinking to myself, this is not right for my age. It doesn't compute.
Because you were channeling it from your higher self or past lives or something.
And so I realized I channeled my entire life, which makes me a little bit different from the usual psychics who see, I never saw imaginary friends or anything. Just words came out of my mouth.
Well, I think everyone has a different way of accessing their intuitive information. You know, some people hear stuff, some people get visions in their mind, some people have dreams, you know.
Yeah.
Some people do automatic writing where it just gets, you know, the pen almost moves itself. I mean, so, you know, I don't think we need to judge how the intuition comes in anyone or give ourselves pressure that, oh, I can't do that thing that Angie does. Well, that's okay. Maybe you get your intuition a different way.
And for the longest of years, I thought I was a fraud. In the 15 years I did tarot readings, because I wasn't clairvoyant and clairaudient, and I was surrounded by them.
Yeah.
So I really like what you just said. It's very important.
Yeah, there are so many clairs. I think it was 5 or 6. I forget. So clairvoyant is when you see things. What was the other one?
Clairaudient is when you hear things.
Yeah. But I'm forgetting what all the clairs are. But there's
clairsentience. There's clair.
Yeah. So clairsentience, where you feel it in your body. Like I've heard the investor George Soros, when he's in a big $1 billion position, when he gets a back pain, he knows he needs to sell right now. That's his clairsentience.
Yeah. But you can have taste. You can have smells.
Oh.
You can be touched as well. I've experienced all of them.
Clear. So that would be what's taste? Clear.
I've got the names. I have a presentation about it because that's what I teach, but I can't be bothered with complicated words.
Anyway, the important point for people listening is, you know, you could get your intuition different ways. And the other thing, my own experience, you can, you know, if you're strong in one area, you can train one of the other areas if you work on it, if you want to, you know. I mean, you don't have to, but, you know, it's...
I think it's about keeping an open mind. Yeah. And what I love is also signs. I think signs are great for people who are starting on the journey and don't feel that they're getting anything and might be doubting themselves. Then signs can be really powerful.
Well, I'm a great believer in animal signs. You know, if I see a weird, unusual bird or snake or some other animal or a group of animals, or they're doing something weird, I always pay attention, and I'll look it up I use a book called Animal Speaks, usually, by Ted Andrews, that has great insight into that. And often there is a message there. Like the other day, I was climbing in the hills outside Cusco, and I saw this dragonfly. Well, I've never, in the 10 years I've been here, I've never ever seen a dragonfly. You know, we're at 11,000 feet or 3,500 meters for those who are metric. I've just never seen one. You know, I think it's a bit too high for them, you know. And dragonflies, one of the messages is transformation, which, you know, spoke to me at the time. So, yeah, there are many ways. Coincidences is another way messages come.
Synchronicities. I love synchronicities, Or
you'll just think of a friend and then they phone you, you know. Or like when you were writing contracts when you were an attorney, you just knew what the contract needed to be. Yeah. Without having to logically think through all the things. So, and I think that's true in all professions. I mean, I run a software company too, and I can just, if I'm trying to fix a bug in some program, I can sort of feel where it is and what to try if I just stop my mind chatter.
Yeah. And, imagine a world where every professional would have this combination of intuition and intellect.
Oh, it would be wonderful. We'd be so much more effective and powerful in our businesses, and, more flowing in our life. So
more fun, less
more
effort.
Fun. Yeah, less worry and stress. It would be more playful. It'd be like little, young toddler kids playing, instead of it making it into a big deal. And, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was just burned out with her business. She didn't have any joy in any of the tasks that she did. Because I asked her on a scale of 0 to 10, how joyful is this task? How, what number would you put on that task? And she was having difficulty getting above 5 out of 10. And it's like, if nothing in your business is a 10 out of 10 joyful, there's something not quite right.
Absolutely.
So I gave her some help. Hopefully she'll get to a 10 out of 10. But,
Wonderful.
Because I think, I forget what the subtitle to one of my books was, but I'm sure it had profit and joy in it.
Yes. I have it somewhere. Not just next to me. Yeah.
Not right next, because I truly believe that in all businesses, if you only focus on the money and don't focus on the joy as well, you're not going to, the results will be much less. And even if you make millions of dollars, you're not going to be happy. So nothing wrong with making millions of dollars, but generally it's more important to enjoy it and have your staff and clients enjoy it, and to do something meaningful for you and them in the world. And
for me, there's nothing wrong with having both, the millions and the joy. Why not?
Absolutely. Have it all. Anyway, money's just energy, so it's just a form of energy exchange, in my view. But and that doesn't mean it's not important. You've got to put it in the contract. You've got to be clear what you're expecting. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if you did this as an attorney, Angie, but I always think you save a lot of lawsuits and headache just by being super clear up front what everyone.
Absolutely. That's why people need contracts. Absolutely. Yes. Because in writing, you formulate things in a much clearer way. And it's a service to both you and your client, because you know your boundaries. The boundaries are clear, and this becomes a really beautiful container for the relationship. If you have a doubt, and it means that you've discussed enough the relationship that you're clear on all the aspects. And that's relaxing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it provides a container for the work to go well.
Yeah.
So, I didn't mention this book earlier because I couldn't remember the title, but just to pop back to the reincarnation, there's a great book I read, The Boy Who Knew Too Much by Kathy Bird. And she had a child, and he was a genius at baseball. And he was a reincarnation of a famous baseball player from the 1940s, Lou Gehrig. And he knew everything about Lou Gehrig's life, not because he'd read it in books, because he'd lived it. And it was the same thing as the story you were telling. When they researched what he said, they discovered, that wasn't in his autobiography, but, it actually did happen. So.
I love that. Yeah. And yet, with all these books, with all that research that's available, why is this knowledge not mainstream? Why is it still for people who are curious and open-minded? I don't know.
I can tell you why it's not mainstream.
Yeah.
Would you like to hear my view on it?
Yes, absolutely.
Because those in charge of our society would find it incredibly inconvenient if billions of people had access to their intuition and could heal themselves and didn't have to pay lots of money to hospitals and could, think how a lot of our world works. There's a lot of control to keep people in line and not have them be too naughty, too creative. And how could you keep the people in line if they were all accessing their own intuition, knew that what you were telling them to do was a bunch of bullshit?
It certainly challenges the lies, the cover up, the fronts.
Yeah.
And it got me into a lot of trouble as a child because I had a real lie detector. I just knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at people straight on, and it got me into a lot of trouble, especially with my mum.
Well, and that's one of the ways it's trained out of children, to not speak to your intuition, to not say the truth, because it's too dangerous. And I think we've come to a point in humanity, as we are all ascending in our own ways, that people need to access their intuition and speak their truth and use their creativity, and not just obey unthinkingly what people tell them to do. We're not robots, we're human beings. I mean, and I think, coming back to that point about what schools do, I think they train people to be effectively little robots,
Well, I looked into schooling, and of course, because of homeschooling and everything, and initially it was to produce workers for the industry,
And so produce soldiers for the conscript military too.
Yeah, so it was to produce people who are compliant, not people who are creative, and it's not changed that much.
No. In 115 years, or however long since Bismarck in Germany created schools to make sure, because the problem Bismarck had, he was a German president in the 1870s, and they created a conscript army, because the other countries, France and whatever, had conscript armies. And the problem was that the conscripts couldn't read and write, and they wouldn't obey orders. Can't have soldiers like that, right? They had to have some basic, ability to follow orders and write stuff and what have you. And also at that time, the military was changing. It was becoming more, there were more machines. You just didn't use your brute strength with a sword in a battle. Now you had to understand, how did the firearms work? How did all the other machinery work? So they had to train them up. And I know that sounds a little cynical, but the reason they had to have schools is so that they could have a better military. And then the other point, as you said, the industrialists needed people who, again, could follow orders and who, could read and write.
Procedures.
So, So they were like little robots. I mean, I know that's a little naughty to say that, but...
well, there's a lot of conditioning that happens in school that we're not even aware of, because we're like the fish in the water.
Yes.
Aren't we?
Just think back to school. I don't know if your school did this, but my school, every time the lesson was going to end, a bell rang throughout the whole school. Right. And then you knew you had to get up from that classroom, go to another classroom. Even if you were enjoying learning about geography or math or French or whatever the topic was, now you had to stop because, everyone had to change. Yes. Well, how Pavlovian, right? Ringing a bell and now you have to do something.
Yeah. I agree. And that's the beauty of homeschooling. That's why I feel very privileged that I literally follow the learning of my children. I allow them to lead me. And if they want to spend 7 days doing only geography, which they don't, but, or something else, then they do that. And then
or dinosaurs or whatever they're into. That it sounds like you're more doing unschooling rather than homeschooling, is what it sounds to me like. Yeah. The difference being homeschooling, there's like a curriculum and you're kind of following it. The unschooling, the child says they've got an interest in, maybe they want to write a novel, maybe they want to start a small online business or whatever. And like, okay, well, you want to start a small online business, you're going to have to learn some stuff about computers. You're going to have to learn some accounting or whatever. Let's learn that so you can build the best business, or, and then they're motivated to learn it. Instead of what happens in school, it's like, well, here's how you do accounting, or here's how you do arithmetic, or whatever it is. And it's boring for most kids because they don't see the point. Why am I learning this stuff? What am I going to do with it?
So what an interesting conversation.
Absolutely. Now, I just want to tell people that Angie has her own business oracle deck that she's going to wave in front of us right now for those watching on video.
It's not going to be on the podcast, but yes, I've created my own deck about a year ago.
And it's called Angie's Fabulous Business Oracle Deck. And where can people get that?
Actually, they can't. Not yet.
Oh, they can't? Oh, I got them. No, they can't get it.
I know that's awful. But no, it's not completely true. My VIPs get a deck as a bonus when they sign up with me. And I will definitely do, like a pre-order at some point this year. In small batches for people when they're interested.
Okay. So if people sign up to your...
if they're in my world, they'll know.
Put in the thing. Yes.
But it was so much fun creating this deck. Like, look, this one's called Industry. So you see this big, chimney thing. Can you
read the words at the bottom for us?
I was just about to read it. It says, you are here to shake up your industry.
You are here to shake up your industry. Wow. So you have a business problem and you pull some cards and it gives you insight from your intuition as to what approach to take. What a great idea.
So the way I usually use them is that I ask I could pull one for you right now just to have a bit of fun.
Go
and
for
I could ask.
I'm pretty open, so.
What does Michaela Light
business? Let me say what the question is before you pull a card.
No, there's no question. I ask, what does your business want you to focus on right now?
Now let's stop right there because that's the really. I want to do it, right? But people listening may have missed something. You said, what does your business want you to do? Not what you do with your business. And that's treating your business as a separate spiritual entity that's alive and it wants to grow in a certain way. And you either facilitate that and your business grows effortlessly, or you resist it and then you have all kinds of struggles.
Yeah. So I always ask people's businesses what they want their owner or their facilitator to focus on. So let's ask your business.
Yes.
What does it want you to focus on right now? It's always fun.
Okay.
What does your business want you to focus on right now? And I'll tell you why I like oracle cards. I'll explain to you a little bit. Big vision is your card.
Big vision. And what's it say at the bottom?
You're not thinking big enough.
Ooh. I like that.
How does that resonate for you?
Yeah, it resonates for me. More importantly, it resonates for my business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I can feel that when I need to talk to my business more, I do that sometimes, but I need to remember to do that. I wrote about it in my book on intuitive business.
I know. And then I do the same. We get in our routine, we forget.
I know. Yeah. I need to have maybe I can make a little list of things I haven't used recently and just use one, pick one for the week and play with that. Something like that. So I rotate through and remember to use them. So, I'll share I don't think I shared this on the podcast. I think I shared this before. This is if I can keep this still. This is a deck called the Divine Feminine Oracle by Lisbeth Cheetha Giesman. And the great thing about this deck is that it's all women and they're all powerful spiritual women. And I pulled this card and it was about the first wife of the Prophet Muhammad, who I never even knew who she was. But she was a single mom, a successful businessman, and then she had their intuition, or businesswoman, thank you.
That's okay.
And it's raining here, so I hear a lot of rain on my roof, so it's kind of getting in my brain. So just to go off on yet another tangent, when I hear rain, I think of every drop of rain as being a drop of love from God falling into my body. So
oh wow, I love that.
A lot happier. Yeah, it makes me feel a lot better about rain instead of being irritated by it. This is preferably when I'm dry inside listening to it, but it can work outside too. Anyway, she was a single mom. She was a successful businesswoman. She had an import-export business in Arabia. And she had this vision that she was supposed to marry this new employee who was 10 or 20 years younger than her. And so she did. And she supported him in his, she was the first person to hear his, revelation from the angel. I forget exactly. I'm not a great Islam, whatever. I haven't studied it.
No, me neither.
Anyway, he had a vision. She was the first person to hear his vision. She like had an intuition. She needs to marry him. And she's the most important woman in Islam. And she coming back to what you said about being a spiritual business person, that you both access these spiritual gifts and you're good at the stuff in the third dimension with money and contracts and what have you. She was like that, right? She continued to have a business and she had this great spiritual side. So, you can have it all. So
I like to hear that. And I think people need to hear that as well.
I think so. And her name, and this was like 1400 years ago, or it was a long time ago. So her name was, I'm going to probably mispronounce it, but I'll put the name in the show notes. I'm going to say it as Kadiha. I think that's how you say it. Probably there's more, guttural sounds because it's Arabic. And then the other woman I just want to slip into the episode because she's fascinating to me was Mary Magdalene, what some people say was the wife of Jesus. And tell us, you're writing about her now, I think, right?
Well, I wrote a novel and a film script about her. It's not exactly her. It's more because I live next to Glastonbury and I discovered her through visiting Glastonbury.
You live next to Glastonbury with all those towers and pyramid things and
about an hour and 10 minutes, which is close, isn't it? Yeah, not like right there. But I discovered Glastonbury when I was a lawyer, actually, because my company sponsored the musical festival back then.
Oh.
And immediately I thought there was something special about the word. And I was still living in London then. But when I moved to Bristol, that's the first place I went to visit. And I discovered that it's literally this sanctuary for Mary Magdalene. There was even a whole shop
there after the crucifixion or something. She went to France and then she went to Glastonbury, or what?
Yeah, I think she did both. And so I went on this research about her because I just found her fascinating. And I ended up writing a novel, which is not about her. It's about a lawyer who faints every time she enters a church, which is a problem for her because she's getting married. And so she has to solve that problem, and she goes to a clinical hypnotherapist. And you can see that my entire life has prepared me to write this novel because I have an insider knowledge about what it's like to be a lawyer, a clinical hypnotherapist, and everything else. So it's been a lot of fun writing that book. And in her first session, even though she says to the clinical hypnotherapist that there is no way she's getting into that woo-woo stuff of past lives, she spontaneously regresses into the life of Mary Magdalene. And she's about to be married to Jesus. So it's the I can't even think of the word in English. The noce de Cana, and the wedding of Cana. Except she's there and she's marrying Jesus, and then the wedding of Cana is Jesus' wedding, basically, in my book.
Wow!
And so it takes us through.
Coming out?
Well, I'm looking for an agent, so.
Well, if anyone listening knows a good book agent, then
it's so much fun, that story, though. But for me, it's a way to bring. It's a very important story, the story of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, in the sense that I feel that in the Christian world, it's an old male sort of spiritual. I mean, there is Mother Mary. But it's weird. Mother Mary's the mother. There's no wife, and being a Catholic. Priests are celibate and all that sort of stuff. And it's very twisted.
But back when Jesus was around, all, and I say all, the rabbis were married.
Exactly.
You could not be a rabbi and not be married. They would think very weird thoughts about you.
Yes, that's true.
And he was a rabbi.
Yep.
Right? He was a preacher. He was a bit of a weird rabbi, according to the other rabbis around, right? Because they didn't like him. He was a bit too radical for them. But he obviously would have been married.
Yeah.
But I mean, my view is that the church and Christianity got manipulated, around between 100 and 400 AD. And they cut out all the female intuitive stuff. Because if you've read the Apostle of Mary Magdalene, which you can find online, or you can buy it as a collection of books. I've got a book called The Other Bible that has all the books that got thrown out in the Council of Nicosia around 400 AD. And hers, one of them. She's very into the intuitive approach to spirituality, that you receive messages and what have you. Well, if you want to be in control of people, right, you can't have a religion where people get their own spiritual messages. They have to get their spiritual stuff through the priest, through the bishop, through the pope.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And also, if you want to have a patriarchy, which is a hierarchy, right, which is much easier to control, right? If you have a hierarchy where you've got, the boss at the top, and then you've got managers and so on, and in the case of the church, it's the pope and the bishops and the priests and whatever the other, I don't know all the terms in the Catholic Church, but it's a hierarchy, right?
Yep.
If you can corrupt the people at the top, you control the whole organization. And so if you want to control humanity, which I think is what has happened, then you want hierarchies. Whereas often the feminine approach to things is to have more of a circle. There's more equality and there's more cooperation. And then you can't just corrupt one or two people and control the whole organization.
Yeah. And it's funny you came to that, because I'm actually trained as a circle holder.
Oh.
And I think that should definitely be something brought into the business world. Yeah, business circles.
I think, there's a lot of value, and a lot of value for the individuals, a lot of value for the business. There's a lot of untapped potential in most businesses.
We'll see. We'll get intuition in first, and then maybe we'll push the circles on the second.
Yeah, there you go. So let's wrap this up. I've got a couple of questions that I ask all my guests, and then we'll tell people about where to find you if they're interested in your books or your upcoming podcast or upcoming.
Oh, we didn't mention. Did we mention the Business Intuition Academy? I don't think so.
Oh, what's that?
It's an academy I started this year, and it's a blend of business and intuition, and how to help. It's mostly online female entrepreneurs use their intuition to niche, to message, to market, to plan, and all that sort of thing. It's a lot of fun.
Well, they can find that on your website, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have so many skills and so many things that you're doing. It's amazing. So, and what a great mission you have to bring business intuition into learning at different levels. So, but
don't we have the same mission on some level?
Very similar. Mine is to get people, entrepreneurs, to open up to using their intuition as well as their logical mind. So very similar to, I'm not so much into the curriculum part. I think that's more your
and I have no idea how it's going to happen at this stage. I just know that that's what I'm supposed to do.
Anyway, the first question is, why are you proud to use your business intuition? Because so many people hide their intuitive skills when they're in business.
It's taken me a long time to be proud of it. I hid it for years. But now I'm proud because I know that intuitive intelligence is a higher form of intelligence. The combination of the two, and you tap into something bigger. I have business intuition guides, business spirit guides that I work with that I absolutely love. And these were people who, I have my main business guide who, when he was running his business, valued intuition highly. There's no coincidence, is there?
No. I mean, that's a great way to look at it. And that's a tool I've written about and use. Have a spiritual advisory board. You have a regular board of directors, but you can have a spiritual advisory board. And the great thing about that is you can pick anyone, right? Alive, dead, imaginary. You could put Superman on it if you wanted to, if you thought Superman was going to be good at doing mergers and acquisitions for some reason. Or
I'll give you some examples of some guides that have come in. So, but at the same time, at one point, there was too many guides and I got confused. So I actually appointed my main business guide as the general manager of my board. And I do, it's funny because I never read your book before I did that, but I do have a meditation where I go into my boardroom. And so I have my general manager and he brings in whoever is appropriate for the job. So Chanel has come at some point. Wow. I've had Einstein likes to come quite a lot, Mozart as well. I know they're all famous and I'm not like name dropping, but it's a lot of fun because they bring the skills that it doesn't always make sense to me, but I trust it.
Yes. No, it's a great way to get business advice and get other insights. And you can, like you say, you can bring in particular guides. You know, if you have a sales question with a big client, maybe you bring in someone who's got that ability, or marketing, you bring in different people or whatever. So great.
My grandfather's come in as well. He was in a bank and he's actually become one of my clients' main business guide, which was really fun. Wow. Completely out, like from left field. I never saw it coming. But it made more and more sense when I realized, and I know my client and what she stands for, and it made sense, complete sense, in a crazy way, but wonderful.
No, I get it. How beautiful, and beautiful for your grandfather's spirit too.
Yeah, because people might not understand that when people die, they don't die, but that's another topic for another podcast almost. But they're still interested in the same things as they were interested when they were on Earth. So all the businessmen of this world who have died are still interested in business, and they have a much bigger perspective than we do. They see the bigger picture, so they can be our helpers in a much better way than even when they were on Earth. That makes sense.
Yeah, and they have less ego involved.
Exactly.
So, and also you don't have to pay them.
Yeah, as well.
I mean, other than gratitude and appreciation. But so, second question is, what would it take to make business intuition more openly used this year?
I think my podcast hopefully will help with that. I know yours definitely has. Something really fun happened today, actually. I was talking to another lawyer and I realized that my memoir is probably going to be of a lot of interest for lawyers. And it never even crossed my mind until I talked to her. And she said, oh my God, I really want to read your memoir. So all it takes, I think, is to take the first step and let the energy guide you and take you wherever it wants to take you. And I'm definitely up to doing that. And I think if I can invite anybody listening to this podcast and listening to you as well, to just follow the energy, follow where it goes. It can be so much fun. I see the intuition as water that flows and it goes around the boulders. It just takes you where you need to go. You might not think it's the way it would have been if you had thought with your intellect, but it always will take you where you're supposed to be.
That is great advice. If people want to find you online, what's your website, Angie?
It's intuitionrevolution.co.uk.
All right. And I'll put the links for your Facebook page. You've got a Facebook group for female entrepreneurs who want to improve their intuition, and along with your YouTube channel and Clubhouse, Twitter. You're on everything.
Not active on all of them at the same time. I suppose Facebook is really my jam. I've been on there for a long time and I feel comfortable there. I go live regularly. But I have really enjoyed Clubhouse. I don't know if you're on there. I love the audio only. And of course, as podcasters, we do, but we also do video. And most of my podcasts have been recorded with video. But when you're just on the voice, I feel I go so much deeper. I have, my club is called the Intuition Hour. And so I invite people to come and just ask me anything they want. So I have on a Wednesday, and it's probably not going to be very friendly for you in US time, at 7:30 in the morning. I have an hour where people just can come and ask me questions.
7:30 UK time. Yeah, that's like in the middle of the night, American. But
but it's fun, and who knows? I might add some more US friendly times at some point. But at the moment, it's at that time.
It might be okay for people in Pacific time, perhaps.
Yeah. I have actually all night owls. I have quite a lot of night owls who come in pop in. And I find that not having the visual helps me to connect to my intuition better. I don't know if that's something that you've experienced as well, but on Clubhouse, I love it for that reason.
Less distraction.
Yeah,
less distraction.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, it's been fabulous talking with you. I wish you great success with your mission to bring intuition to people throughout the world through their schooling and through their businesses. So, and I'm looking forward to your new cards and books coming out.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Get detailed show notes on today's episode together with your free What Would It Take Business Intuition Guide at intuitiveleadershipmastery.com. Create a fabulous and profitable day. What would it take?